Hello everyone, welcome to another video on Gen AI. In this video, we'll be talking about MCP server. What is MCP, right? What is Model Context Protocol? In my previous video, I did talk about Copilot agent mode and MCP support. If you remember, if you have not seen my previous video, you can go ahead and watch that. You will get some understanding on that. But I wanted to talk about model context protocol, right? Which is what is that, and basically how can we make use of it to basically increase the efficiency, or basically uh, for different use cases like making one agentic flow, right? If you want to do some any kind of agentic architecture or flow, you need MCP implementations. So if you see last video, right, I talked about how we can use how we can query Postgres database using the MCP server from our Copilot chart itself, right? So let's go to our fundamentals of MCP, basically what exactly MCP server is, right? And then come back and basically we can install a different MCP server, and then we can go ahead. Okay. So MCP server, prior to MCP, right? If you see anyone in ChatGPT also, if you go ahead and ask for uh, what is the real time weather, right? What is the temperature in this city or something? So it used to do a wave search call, and then it is basically a function calling and get it. Similarly, every provider was having that. So this is something for weather, right? So tomorrow, if you go ahead and ask for your own implementations, or let's say I want to query from Oracle or from Postgres or anything else, right? So these are all different kinds of real-time call should happen. So basically, a different call is going to a different tool, right? So how can we do that? And to get the detail from Oracle or Postgres, or let's say weather service, or let's say your own application XYZ, who can provide the detail, right? It is that provider. So if you remember the way JPA came, right? Previously we used to use different databases and we used to use their native drivers. But later what? There was a protocol defined, right? Java persistence API, or there was an API, application program interface, which is again a contract. So this is also something, a protocol or contract, I would say, where you build your logic to connect to different tools or different services, I would say, and that can be invoked by the LLM to generate different insights or response. So that is how one agentic framework will work, right? So if you want one agent to book, or basically to place an order in Amazon or Flipkart, what it has to do? It should have access to all those APIs from Amazon or Flipkart, right? Otherwise, it cannot. And if you want to build, you cannot go ahead and write all that logics for all different services. So that is the reason now this model context protocol came into the picture, and lots of people, they started building these MCP servers which are specific to their services, so that people can start using it from any agentic workflow. In this case, if you see, this is, let's say, local data source A. Consider this is a database, Postgres. MCP server A is nothing but all the logics where it will know, or basically all the logics to perform different operations for this one. Let's say, think about this remote service C. Service is nothing but, I was talking about Amazon or Flipkart. There is a web API call to place order or anything, right? So n number of MCP servers we can have depending upon different services. And then we should have one-on-one mapping. LLM should know, oh, if I need to place an order, what is the MCP server I have to use? And that is nothing but that one-on-one mapping is MCP client. And this MCP client should be somewhere, right? It should be within one IDE or your own AI applications or anything that is called as host. Like if you know cloud or any IDEs or tools. So it is pretty much simple, where instead of basically your LLM, where it will not have knowledge to place an order, it should know there is a way we should tell that, okay, This is the service you have to use to place an order. And that is through the MCP client we can do, which is nothing but one-on-one connections with different servers, right? And uh, this is where you can use it, different services, different MCP servers, and perform uh, lots of other operations. So you can go through this document, right? What is the core architecture for this and all, and you will understand. It is pretty much simple, where there is a protocol. Everybody will come up with this basically implementations or build their MCP server, and they can basically upload this or make it readily available somewhere, right? Um, so that people can start using it. There should be some marketplace, right? The way you can download some driver, it should be that way that you should be able to download something from the marketplace, right? So this is the MCP marketplace, you can say, where um, you'll be able to go ahead, search for any kind of MCP servers, and then install it and start using it. So if you see here, for GitHub, there is a MCP server readily available. And what it can do, if I go to this one, what are all the features? So if you see here, it is going to provide all these details, create or update files. So it is called as tools, right? So LLM will invoke that particular tools based on the prompt. Let's say if you say, I want to push this change to GitHub, it should understand this is the tool that I am going to invoke, right? Similarly, all of the different operations and all, okay? Similarly, I have something for demonstrations, right? Let's use this file system one, because this might be useful when you query anything in your in our day-to-day work, right? We always go ahead and struggle to basically find some file or some content where it is, right? In which file system and all. This is very basic and very common use case, and there are 4 different MCP servers, but this is one of them, where you can read file, write file, edit file, then move file. All of these different operations are there. And in my previous video, I have already shown you how you can basically install all of this. So there are different ways: Docker, npx, and Docker build. So let's use this npx one, which I think we already used in our previous video as well. And this is for the packages, right, where which you need to install. So if you go to your, this is my client, or this is the host, Copilot chart I will be using to basically install one of the MCP server for file system, and then we'll be able to query something, or through the prompt itself we are going to ask, can you give me all the list of files or something like that, and we'll see how this MCP server works basically. Okay, so these are all the tools, MCP servers, select tools. If you see, right, first you should be in the agent mode, okay, and then you click on this tool and click on add more tools, right? I already have one for Postgres. Now I want to go ahead, basically I want to install one more for file system, and you need to select npm package, okay, give this package name, which I got it from the marketplace, okay, and press enter. Then you need to allow, okay, and you can give any name, but let's leave it to file system. Let's give user settings. The moment you do that, you see there is one more entry which was not there, and now it got created, right? Postgres was there, one of my MCP server, and then file system is there. But there are some error. What is this error? If you go in and see, this path doesn't exist, no such files, because when you install this, based on the marketplace implementation, right, exactly it will give you that same thing, but this path you need to replace. So it should not be right from MCP server you are going to give the complete directory or complete file system of your computer, right? It cannot be like that. So let's give one file system, which is, let's say, Copilot agent. I have one directory. I am in Spring AI, which is a different one, right? I'm going to give a separate directory folder on which we can basically query based on our prompt. Basically from Copilot chart, using our prompt itself, we should be able to basically perform some of the file system operations. That is what is the expectation, right? If you see, using MCP server file system, what we can achieve, such kind of things only we can achieve. So let's go ahead and change the path to this one. And the moment you saved it, you need to restart this one, and this time it should be success. If I scroll down, starting server from local process extension host and waiting for server to respond, secure MCP file system server running on studio, allowed directories are this one. If you want to allow more directories, even that is possible. Okay, now let's go ahead and ask list all the files inside Copilot agent. Like this is what the directory we have given, and let's ask about basically list all the files inside that directory. And if you see, it invoked that particular tool which I was explaining here, right? It will get to know what is the tools that it has to invoke. LLM came to know from this particular MCP one-on-one mapping, right? It has both of them. I was asking about file system, and it was intelligently, it was able to figure out I need to invoke this file system MCP server, and then basically it is asking me, do you want to proceed, continue? I would say continue. And now it is working on that particular directory, and maybe it is trying to fetch all the list of files within that particular directory, right? Meanwhile, let's go ahead and see what are all the different operations it is possible. If you see, read file, write, read multiple files, directory tree, everything. And based on the prompt, it will figure out what is the exact tool that it is going to invoke. And if you see, it was able to give me all the directories, MCP server, Postgres, MCP, public, and all. If I go back, if you see all of those directories, right, it was able to give me from Copilot chart itself, which means it was able to invoke the MCP server tools and get me the detail. Can we try, let's say, create a file called xyz dot inside Copilot agent folder. Let's see. And it should be able to invoke or call the tool create file or write directory or something, right, which we have seen. Okay, and if you see, it started creating a file. This is a sample YAML file because I did not give any content, and it created as well xyz.yaml. And if you see, user public work copilot agent, now it says it is created. If I come back to this directory, I see this file is created over here. Right, so this is how even Copilot was working. These are all the different things, but this file system, I got it from a marketplace and install it, and we are able to do it. So definitely it is not that Copilot was using while accessing any workspace, because this is the workspace and it was able to do it. But now it is doing some operations which is outside of this workspace, and that is possible because of this MCP server which we installed now. Okay. Now that I have multiple MCP servers, right? And if I ask any questions, or basically based on my prompt, it should be able to figure out which tool it should use. Let's say, let's ask this question, list all the tables in the database. And now this query is related to database, so it should be able to figure out that it has to use this Postgres MCP server and not file system. Let's see what it came up with. And if you see, as I mentioned, right, it was able to figure out that it has to use Postgres because I'm talking about database context here. And then it generated what are all the different tables, and then it generated the query, and it is asking me to continue. If I continue, it should be able to tell me what are all the tables. And I think we had only one table, which was product table, right? So it should be able to execute that query and give me the response, that product table in the public schema. So that was the only table available, which we have seen in last video as well. So this is how we can use MCP servers, and we can make our life even easier, right? And basically it is like building your agentic application, or while using from Copilot chat or any other IDE to basically query anything. So tomorrow, if you think about any agent we build, right, that and with all of these MCPs and all of this tooling, or I would say function calling, or basically MCP, uh, uh, the AI application will be able to invoke all different kinds of operations. It can be write, read, anything, and that is what it is, right? In today's world, when you place an order or whatever you do, it is the same thing. So that is where people were talking about that SaaS will collapse and things will come in agentic way. And definitely, if this is the case, AI is able to understand everything and which operations it has to call, invoke, and then finally give you back the response. Then definitely things will go towards that direction. And this is what, that's the reason I mentioned in my previous video, right? MCP will be a game changer. And there is a new protocol called as A2A, which was, I think, developed by Google. And that is built on top of MCP, I guess. That is the, it's an open protocol, right? So Google built that on top of, it's a wrapper on top of MCP. That is called as agent to agent protocol, right? Agent to agent communication. So I might come up with a video on that as well. But this is what I wanted to cover in this video. What is MCP? And now you understood this, right? And now how you can use it in your day-to-day life. If you're a developer or working professional, definitely it is going to help you. So start using this, and this will make your life easier for sure. So if you like this video, and please do subscribe to my channel. And that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching.